Had you always wanted to do airbag competition, or was that just something that all of a sudden hit you that, oh, this would be really cool?
Well, I started out thinking I wanted to be an airline pilot. And the further I got in that direction, the more I realized, I don't think I really like this.
Yeah.
And then crop dusting opportunity came along, and I really liked that. But then I had a bad accident, and I got married, and I had kids. My wife was no more crop dusting. So the aerobatic thing was another stick and rudder skill. That was, just the basic grassroots of how do you fly an airplane. And it was before there was a competition format. I'm out there with a book in one hand and a stick in the other, teaching myself how to do this stuff.
Oh, okay.
But it was undisciplined, and there were no specific goals, and there were no regimented safety imposed on the format. And so it was inherently dangerous,
Yeah.
teaching yourself
Yeah.
under those circumstances. And then,
Now, did you do this without your wife knowing, or did she was
well,
okay with you?
know.
I mean, this is like a little more dangerous than crop dusting.
Aerobatic Club of America got going about that time in my experience, and they had a competition format. And I all of a sudden thought, I really thought that was the way to go. And, but, we were very ignorant. None of us could figure out what all these funny symbols meant at the time, and there was a lot of learning. And the rule book was actually 5 pages on a mimeograph. That was the rules.
That's
Five
pages.
Now we've got a catalog.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so there was a lot left to the discretion of judges back in the early days. I remember a sequence that had a slow roll, so there was a 2-point roll followed by a 45 up half roll, reverse half cube. And a 65 horsepower Cub, after you do a 2-point roll.
No inverted.
You don't have anything to do an up 45 roll. And it's all, I just punched the nose down and dove the airplane to the entry speed I needed, and it continued. And the judges didn't know quite what to do with that. The rules didn't really cover what you do in that circumstance. Today it's very explicit.
So do you have that? You still have that book? That 5-page book? Did you save
I
it?
probably do.
Do you really? That's
It's not a
awesome.
book, actually. It was just
a-
the pages that were run off on a ditto machine
Okay.
and were stapled together.
That's awesome.
When did you start flying aerobatics?
Well,
What year was
1959
that?
was the first time I was upside down in an
Okay.
airplane, but I was a student pilot at the time.
Purposely.
When they first, you were the winner of the first Fond du Lac deal, right?
Yeah, 1970.
Oh, wow.
What happened, there was a competition format that was actually quite successful that came to a screeching halt in 1952. And the circumstances were an air show in Colorado had a spectator pilot coming in to watch the show, was showing off on arrival, attempted to do a slow roll right in front of the crowd and lost control of the plane, went into the crowd, killed 22 people.
Oh,
And several hundred people seriously injured. So that put a kibosh, no more aerobatics of any kind, competition, air show. So
Wow.
for 10 years, nothing.
nothing.
And Dwayne Cole and some of his peer group were responsible for coming up with a format that the FAA could live with in terms of waivers and deadlines and safety considerations, and then cautiously allowed aerobatics to continue. But there was that dead period from,
That's a long
and so in the meantime, there's a lot of people in the country who were interested in aerobatics and were self-taught and were out in the boondocks doing their thing. And when all of a sudden now it became possible to do it with the blessings of the FAA, the Precision Aerobatic Group of EAA had a contest in conjunction with the Rocket Planes that was in the 60s. The Antique Aircraft Association, the National Championship Aerobatic Competition in Tonga, Iowa. Dwayne Cole was running a National Aerobatic Championship in conjunction with Rio Air Races. Happy Space starts Aerobatic Club of America and is doing a national aerobatic championship in Texas. So there are all these things going on, and so you can find certain years in the 60s where there's supposedly 3 different national champions.
Oh, wow.
Depending on which group they were flying with. And finally, it came down to, if you're going to declare a national championship, you had to have the approval of FAI. That's a world. So Aerobatic Club of America was successful in acquiring that status.
Okay.
So these other organizations eventually kind of fell by the wayside, and ACA led the group. The issue was at the time is that people that ran that club were focused, really focused on getting a U.S. team capable of competing at the world level. And so all the efforts were expended in that direction at the expense of attention to the grassroots parts of aerobatics. And that set the stage for what we now have International Bike Club.
So do regional or local competitions like this one, are they a good, have they matured to be a good feeder for the national teams?
Yeah, there are some exceptions, but most of the people that have gone all the way to a world championship contestant started out flying an inexpensive airplane at the bottom and worked their way up. But by the time you get to unlimited, it takes an unbelievable amount of time. And, you know, those guys go out and practice twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day.
Right.
And there's a big expense involved.
The airplane itself is anywhere from $350 to $400.
Yeah, you're looking at $300,000, $500,000 for an airplane that's competitive at that level.
And I can make that.
Back in the early days, the planes that were involved were, for the most part, World War II trainers that had been modified to fly upside down.
Yeah, I retired.
And people were very ingenious with ways to come up with, how can I get this engine to run upside down, maintain oil pressure, and so on.
Right.
But they weren't designed for that purpose for the most part.
Class 3 back.
And now we have, you know, all kinds of airplanes that were designed for only one purpose, and that was to fly aerobatics. And, you know, Marion Cole did more inverted ribbon cuts and more different kinds of airplanes than anybody in the history of the club. And I asked him one day, I said, well, which airplane do you regard as the best one for that? And he said, the decathlon. Because you can trim it, it's hands-off inverted, you know, and it's light control on the stick, and you've got excellent visibility. And with that wing it has, you know, it's happy, inverted. And Pete used the decathlon too for inverted ribbon cuts. So which one was the worst one? Bonanza.
Yeah, he flew that a lot, didn't he?
No. He flew it one season and part of the second season, that was it. The airplane wouldn't, it was configured to, the engine would fly upside down, but the airframe didn't like to be upside down. And it took so much, it didn't have enough forward elevator. And, you know, when he'd come down for the ribbon, he'd roll the trim all the way to the forward stop. Then he'd have to hold, you know, and then when you rolled inverted, then it was, and he broke the seat one day, pushing himself. And nobody had any idea. You know, you watch him do it, it was all smooth and graceful, and you had no idea what that poor guy was going through.
How far can that really be, though? How would you
He hit the ribbon pole with his wingtip in Oshkosh. I was on the other side. I held the ribbon pole that was the hit, and Frank Price's oldest boy, Charlie, was on the other side holding the other ribbon pole. And that's the one he hit. That's when he quit.
Oh, he did quit then? Did he do damage?
No, he dinged up the wingtip a little bit. You know, no big deal.
That's when he quit flying on Bonanza.
And he quit flying air shows after that.
Marion Cole was one of the Cole brothers, Wayne Cole, Marion Cole.
Lester and Dwayne and Murray.
They had an air show, Cole Brothers Air Show for 17 years, something like that.
Actually they started in the 50s and got shut down, and then came back up in the 60s and 70s.
steermen with walkers, they would just come in town, they could do the whole thing. Giles used to do that too, yeah.
Yeah, we had a package air show, you know, with the announcer, the PA system, a comedy club, car to plane transfer act, pits doing low-level ribbon cuts and low-level aerobatics, 2 warbirds, hot air balloon, skydivers, whole package, signing the dotted line, you got an air show. Their dad had, well, they still have their airplanes there at Harvard. And when they had the EAA convention was at Rockford, they decided it was not safe to have the aerobatic competition at the Rockford airport for good reason, with all the airplanes coming and going.
Sure.
So we all would migrate over to Harvard, and that's where we did the competition.
Okay.
And the Daisies hosted that. At the time, Susan was in high school,
Yeah.
and she had a Great Lakes biplane. And David had a steerman in.
Right.
But their dad turned my airplane over on his back. He had recovered it for a customer, and he didn't have room to keep it in his shop hangar once it was done. He had other projects coming. So he, at the customer's agreement, he took it outside to tie it down until they could come get the airplane. And there was snow, and it was crushed it over.
Oh.
And the wheels dropped through the crushed snow and flipped the airplane over on its back.
Oh, no.
And so the original 1946 metal spar wings got removed and replaced with wood spar wings. Oh, I wouldn't own that airplane today.
Wow.
The wood spar is ideal for an aerobatic airplane. A metal spar is okay when it's new, but they eventually crystallize and fatigue and fail. And so you take an airplane that's 70 years old, it's not a good candidate to cut the wings off and shorten them up and make it a trick plane if it's got metal spars.
Right.